The sixth season of the Overwatch League is finally upon us, and there are many unpredictable matches. The meta contender seems to be very open, but with the Winston dive seemingly being strong in Apex still, it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. The meta seems to be mostly a Winston meta, with Sombra and Tracer, but Zarya seems to be played a lot in APAC, and the REMATCH and Rhine comps are still strong on some niche maps. With this in mind, it'll be an interesting week. For our first match, we have the Toronto Defiant taking on the San Francisco Shock. This match has potential to be close. Toronto have proven themselves to be quite multifaceted, with Hydron and Kaluch especially showing some star power. Their win over Boston was huge and gave me a lot of faith. But I think the meta does really favor the Shock here. The Shock proved to be a force to be reckoned with on the Winston Sombra comp, and now that Brig Ana is potentially meta unless she gets nerfed, Finn and Vindame are obviously extremely strong on those heroes, being their best ones. I'll give it to the Shock 3-1, but it'll be competitive. Next up, the Washington Justice versus the London Spitfire. This is an interesting one. The Washington Justice have proven to be pretty formidable in the Pro-Am, taking the eventual runner-ups, the Los Angeles Gladiators, to their limits. Alfie and Flora are a good DPS line, and Menbest have also outperformed expectations. Meanwhile, the Spitfires struggled quite a bit, getting absolutely smashed by the Rain and Mayhem, which, while kind of expected, is less than what we thought from a previous top 6 team. This might be a bit of a hot take, but I think I'll take the Justice in a 5-map banger. I just have them a bit more in a dive meta, and I think the Ram matchup is about equal. I just have not liked what I've seen from the Spitfire, sadly, and the Scrimbucks back up this result. It's a bit of a spicy take, but these guys are very close in skill, and I see it going either way. Next up, we have the Florida Mayhem versus the Vancouver Titans. I give it to the Mayhem 3-0. The meta continues to suit them very well, and Yiska did bring up a good point that they got a head start on the meta by incorporating the Brig and Ana comp in the Pro-Am. Florida will continue to perform well, though Titans could make things interesting. Next up, New York's Excelsior versus the Atlanta Reign. Yeah, it should be an easy 3-0. New York are looking to punch up a bit, but Reign looks so good right now. Next up, token match, Houston Outlaws versus the Los Angeles Gladiators. This should be a good one. This was an absolute fire matchup in the Pro-Am, and the Gladiators came out on top then. On paper, I think Houston take this. Ram seems to be falling out of the meta, and that was what really pushed Gladiators over the edge in their last matchup. On top of that, Zenyatta is also falling out of meta, which definitely hurts the Ana-Zen combo the Outlaws were so dominant on. I want to say Outlaws take it 3-1, man. I take them on the Winston comps, but I trust Gladiators more to clutch it out when the going gets rough. The toughie. However, the arrival of Gargoyle to NA and Sigma becoming strong again, I think this pushes them over the edge. I'll go with Outlaws 3-1, but it could go either way. If it goes to 5 maps, I think Gladiators clutch it out. Next up, Titans vs Valiant. Man, I like the Valiant. I think they have some good talent and want to have Hopium, but the Titans take it pretty easily. I don't think there's a real matchup Valiant have to contest them here. I give it to Titans 3-0. Next up, our first taste of APAC. We have the Soul Infernal against the Soul Dynasty. The battle for Soul, spicy. Who comes out on top? Now, I'm going to dip pretty heavily into Scrimbucks here. On paper, I do think Soul looks a bit better. Prophet Tracer, embellishment on Winston is arguably better than Mag, and I like the supports for Soul as long as they aren't playing Lucio. But apparently the Infernal are dominating in scrims right now, even looking better than Dallas and Spark, primarily off the back of M3 and Zest. I'll give it to the Infernal 3-1. It might be a bit too much off the Scrimbucks stock exchange, but I can see it. The Zest Tracer, M3 on basically any hit scan, Mag Winston, maybe skewed Brig and fix that on it. Honestly, pretty fire. We'll stay with the dice roll. Next up, we have the Dallas Fuel versus the Guangzhou Charge. Now this prediction is purely memes, but I don't give a fuck. Fuel has never won an opening game, and also has never won a map against the Charge. Fuel definitely look like the better team right now, don't get me wrong. With rumors that Zarya is being played more, I don't doubt Hanbin can just carry again, but I'm feeling some chaos. Charge 3-0. Next up, Spark versus Dragons. Spark 3-0. Dragons have some decent pieces, but are just nowhere near a stack to Spark, and just have a totally confusing roster in general. I want to think Dragons can punch up, but I'm going with a dominant win for Spark here. Next up, Washington Justice versus the Las Vegas Eternal. Washington 3-0. Next up, Houston Outlaws versus the Los Angeles Valiant. Houston 3-0. Next up, New York Excelsior versus the Boston Uprising. There's some hopium for New York fans. Boston are rumored to be extremely boomed right now, throwing scrims against people like the Valiant. I think they could just show up and perform very badly, but still, I'm not high on New York at all. And even if they are boomed, the meta continues to follow perfectly into Boston's lap. And I think that just on a mechanical basis, they should be able to power through, winning 3-1. I will say New York looked pretty good on their REMATCH comp, so they could steal away a dub there. Next up, another banger, the Shock versus the Atlanta Reign. It's basically a matchup between the big two. Reign are dominating scrims again, with the Sombra comp falling to their laps insanely hard. And they are probably the best team right now, but Shock can make things very interesting. We saw them pop off in the Sombra Winston comp, even on high ping, and the head-to-head could be interesting. But I take Lip over Heesang on Sombra all day. Proper definitely outperforms stock from the Tracer, Junbin I take over Donghack, and Vindame I take on Brig over Shio. But it's pretty tough. Reign I probably favor on their Mantra comps, and it's hard to say about the Sigma comps, though Max is insane. But I also know that Shock was struggling in scrims due to their late get-together. I don't know. My brain says Reign 3-1, but my heart says Shock 3-2. I'll say Reign 3-1. Shock usually have a slow start anyway. Next up, we got the Las Vegas Eternal taking on the Florida Mayhem. Florida wins 3-0. Next up, the Boston Uprising taking on the London Spitfire. Again, similar to the last Boston match, Boston are very boomed, but they have a ton of talent and a very good meta. I'll say Uprising take it 3-1. London are also struggling a lot right now. Finally, another banger, Los Angeles Gladiators versus the Toronto Defiant. Both teams are very close in skill, being surprisingly meta-proof despite the talent on the team. And I'm going to go with the Gladiators here, probably 3-2. It'll be close, but I think Kevster is going to be a big difference maker here. Thanks for watching.